blanket, baby blanket. I'm Nikoleta, I'm an alcoholic.
Nikoleta.
Oh my God, I'm so nervous. No pressure, right? I'm just like speaking in front of speakers that like inspire me and have raised me in Alcoholics Anonymous. But, you know, it's a privilege and an honor to be here and to be with this lineup, obviously. And speakers often say, like, I get to do this. I get to live a life like this. So, you know, anything I do today, no matter how I feel about it, is to honor what has happened for me in Alcoholics Anonymous, really. I understand what I mean when I say I'm Nikoleta, I'm an alcoholic. Like, for a long time, I didn't understand what that meant, you know. Not to take up a seat in this room, not because somebody told me I'm an alcoholic, not because the therapist told me, friends told me, lovers told me, you know, treatment told me. I want to be like joyful and grateful, but when I think about step one and when I go into the emotional memory of the pain and suffering of step one, it's heartbreaking. It's hard. We are devastated by this illness. It is so heartbreaking to suffer from this illness that completely takes us over, completely just entranced by this illness, body, mind, and spirit. No idea what's happening to me. I think I got control and power because that's really what I want. I want to be able to make my own decisions. I think I know what's best for me. I want to be able to live my life. I'm successful in other areas of my life, so why can't I lick this? How is it that I constantly change my mind from morning to night? You know, and I know it's a workshop. I don't have a lot of experience speaking at workshops. I wouldn't even know how to do a workshop on step one without reading like 50 pages out of the big book, which, you know, I get passionate about and I love it and I respect it and I honor it. And I've been reading it for 16 years and it still speaks to me. And I still find things that are fresh, you know, because truth is fresh, like truth speaks, like fresh, yeah, that's a good word. It's always fresh, you know. It appears new, even when it's not, like, it's amazing. So I'll just tell you my story as it pertains to step one. I was, this is not a Jersey accent, or a Philly accent, or a New York accent. But it's an accent, so I was born in Belgrade, Serbia. I'm 43 years old. I got sober when I was 27. At 16, I started living alone in New York City. I was there for 2 years. I struggled a lot. I was homeless. I was an illegal immigrant chasing a dream, worked my ass off, went to school, put myself through college, was a valedictorian, had high grades, got accepted into 30 universities. By 19, I was making six figures. But from 16, I lived alone. And when I was a young kid, I watched my dad. I watched the effect that alcohol had on my dad. I had an experience watching my dad drink. And it brought an incredible amount of curiosity for me, why alcohol was so important, or why he couldn't seem to put it down, or how come he was enjoyable or happy when he had it, and how come he appeared restless and irritable when he didn't. And I was working in a restaurant, and out of curiosity, I got my hands on a bottle of gin. I went home. I was living alone. I opened the bottle. It was love at first gulp. I drank alone. I drank the bottle. I don't remember much of that night, but I loved it and I wanted to do it again. Do I think physical craving appeared immediately? I have no idea. I don't even know these words. I don't understand. I just wanted to do that again. In simple terms, I just wanted to do that again. Why did I want to do that again? When I drank that bottle, something magical happened. The wheels of my mind stopped spinning. I was already restless, irritable, and discontent. I already didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. From the moment that I could think as a kid, like 5 years old, first memory, mom throwing dad out of the house, you know, Mom was the one that was pissed. Dad ran, flew from the house more. And the bottles flew from the house. And it was dark, and it was heavy energy, and there was anger, and there was unhappiness. And there were the effects of alcoholism in the family that I was already experiencing at 5 years old. I felt fear. I didn't feel safe. Right? First memory, first emotion that I think of. Did I know that when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous? Hell no. Does anybody even talk like this? Does anybody even look at themselves and take personal inventory and try to figure out what do they mean by this? No. No, but in retrospect, in hindsight, right? As I get clearer in recovery, as I'm willing to take a look at my life, because all I have is my life. Oftentimes I'd like to have your life, but all I can work with is the experience that I have. And there's usually, if it's God's will and not my will be done, then I need to take a look at my experience as it having something that it wants to inform me, some truth it wants to inform me, right? So booze was exciting. It was a social lubricant. It made things easier. It gave me courage. It made me feel like I can do this. I can do more. It pushed me, right? I thought it did that for everyone. I thought that was normal. Any experience I had with alcohol for many years was normalized by me. I didn't know that it was not normal. I sensed at points, quietly, that my relationship with alcohol was not normal. And any alcoholic, if they can really get quiet with themselves and take a look at what was your relationship with booze, you'll notice, right, that we knew even before we knew. On some level, I knew deep down inside, even though I didn't have the words for it, right? And but I didn't know that I needed to listen to the depth of my being. I didn't know that the truth was in being connected to that, to the depth of my own being, right? I was trained to listen to my mind, that all the problems in my life will be answered by my mind, that there's nothing my mind can fix, that knowledge can fix everything, that if I want something, I need to achieve it, I need to get it. And to top it off, I went to college and I studied philosophy, and my thesis that gave me my college degree was proof that there's no God. So I was, talk about playing God. 16 years later, right? Well, not 16 years later, more like 26 years later. It is absolutely the most important relationship in my life. Absolutely, 100%. And that word God, is just such a, we read this paragraph, I need absolute psychic change. I need a spiritual solution to my alcoholism, right? I need to be inwardly reorganized and stuff like that, right? I don't know that I'd like to use the word God. I do and I don't. But I would like to use the word truth. God all-knowing, right? Truth's all-knowing. I would like to use the word love. I think it's a little bit more tangible in terms of what I'm trying to talk about here. And fast forward 11 years later, a lot of fun times, a lot of crazy times, a lot of short weekends to long weekends to happy hours that kept extending to Tuesdays and Wednesdays and all of that stuff. And I found myself, I became a daily drinker. I had reasons and excuses, and I rationalized constantly and consistently why I needed a drink, wanted a drink, should have a drink, earned a drink. We'll think about it tomorrow. Do something about it tomorrow, New Year. I had so many New Year's resolutions. They were ridiculous. It was ridiculous. Every first of the month resolution, every Monday resolution. It was stupid, basically. Why? Because I want to be in control. I want to be in control of my life. I crave sense of safety and security that I think I need to create for myself. I don't trust life. I don't trust life will provide. I don't trust that I will be given. And I think I need to do it. And a lot of our society and culture, maybe my upbringing or my perception was that I needed to make it happen. I go from being hungry, living in abandoned buildings, sober. I was hungry, living in abandoned buildings, looking for 17 pennies to buy bread on the streets of New York City at 14, to making six figures at 20 and being a valedictorian. You have that kind of success, you achieve those kinds of external things, you think that there's nothing that I can't conquer or achieve. Or maybe that was my philosophy at that time. And that kind of kept me from acknowledging the truth of what was happening. And what was happening is that I drank a lot, and I always got thirsty after I drank. And I didn't understand why I would always get thirsty when I drank, because I didn't understand that as an alcoholic, I suffered from the physical craving, the allergy of the body. I didn't understand that each drink demanded the next drink. I didn't understand that I processed alcohol differently. I saw that I would get thirsty. I saw that there was no such thing as happy hour for me. Every happy hour I ever tried to do ended up with me closing the bar. I saw that and that's the thing, like, yeah, I get it. Once I put it in me, all bets are off. And once I put it in me, my experience shows most of the time, and this is something we need to reflect as alcoholics, especially when it comes to come into the rooms and be honest with ourselves and go into the emotional memory of our drinking. What was it like when you pick up a drink? What did that look like? What did you experience most of the time? What did you experience most of the time? So I get the powerlessness of that. And I have it. I have plenty of it in my experience. But that I had a mind that constantly brought me back to the drink, even when I didn't want to drink, is freaking incredible. So I'm not just powerless after I drink. I am powerless before I drink, and that is scary. When you see that with every fiber of your being, like I didn't take step one, so to speak, traditionally take step one in AA in my early recovery and was like, yay, I'm Nikoleta, I'm an alcoholic. It was like, oh my God, I can never drink again. Never successfully. Like you get that? There's no reservation. There's no plan for the future. Like all bets are off. There's no like I'm 16 years sober. I'm terrified of NyQuil. I'm terrified of I don't eat tiramisu, my favorite dessert for 16 years. Like I'm not playing with this. Why? Because my life depends on it. How do I know my life depends on it? Because of the experience of step one. And my experience of step one was that I tried every way to control and enjoy my drinking and my thinking, to beat the game, to control it, to have power over it, to be the one to have a say. And any alcoholic will understand what I'm talking about. I didn't want to admit that. I didn't want to see that truth. You know, life just kept taking away from me anything that stood in the way of that truth. Showing me the relationship with booze is the most important one. All other relationships are secondary to it. You're alone on the floor of your apartment with an eviction notice for the third time this year in your own piss, vomiting bile. It's not pretty. Like, it's not pretty. And I can't stop. And I don't want to drink. And I change my mind every hour. I change my mind every hour. And I tried various ways and methods, you know, when it was still pretty, you know, like I like amber colored drinks. I like scotch and whiskey. I like the warmth. I remember enjoying hard liquor. Maybe I'll drink beer, I'll drink wine. I wanted to drink like a lady. I don't know if anybody relates to that. I wouldn't get a second date because I drank his drinks. I got sick at a wine tasting. I was working in restaurants, and you know, you're supposed to like spit it out, and I would drink all of it. I didn't understand why I was the only one drinking all of it. I would drink mine, I would drink yours, I would drink theirs, I would drink other people's, right? I would get drunk in church at 10 in the morning at a, you know, cultural like event for Christian Orthodox. I'm Christian Orthodox, right? We would have like this Sunday thing. Serbs like to drink. I'm Serbian, so we, you know, they drink for everything. plum brandy, and I would just I couldn't get up. It was like 10 in the morning because I didn't understand the physical craving. I didn't understand the impact that alcohol had on me. It really slowed the wheels of my mind. It really empowered me. It empowered me. It was, that relationship with it is so important because it's like it's like a toxic relationship you can't leave. It's like an abusive husband or something that you can't get out of. Like that kind of codependency was happening with alcohol. And I thought I was in control, but I was actually justifying and excusing and normalizing every bottom that I came to. I remember a speaker once saying this, and I love repeating it ever since I heard it. I would get to a bottom, and I would furnish it and invite you over. And now looking back, 16 years later, I look back at what it looked like in 2006, what my life looked like in 2006 when I was having seizures publicly in New York City subways and on the streets of New York City. And I would have the bodega guy who I always looked at him as like a bum. I would see in his eyes him looking at me as though I was a bum. I could see it. I like something would translate in that moment, And I look now from this vantage point, and I see the insanity. But at that vantage point, it was normal, and it was excusable, and it was rationalized. It was normalized. By what? My mind. Why? Because the problem centers in the mind. In my disconnection, in my irritability and disconnection. It's like these spiritual maladies, the cog that turns the wheel of my just constant discomfort. I'm uncomfortable in my own skin. I don't know how to connect to you. I don't know how to be real. I don't know how to be honest. I'm afraid of being vulnerable. I don't know how to open up. I think all of you are lying, and I think all of you are pretending, so I'm lying, and I am pretending because that's my perception. Because I'm really driven by fear. And I really want you to like me, and I really want to be accepted, and I really don't want to get embarrassed, and I'm really afraid of being alone, and yet I'm alone because I don't know how to connect, and I don't know how to commit, and blah, 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 blah. You guys get it? How am I doing? Is this step one good? Okay, because I really want to make you proud. September 15, 2006 is my sober date, not of my own choosing. I used to go to AA meetings with whiskey in my Snapple bottle. I'd have cocaine in one pocket because that helped me maintain the drinking. And I would have whiskey in my Snapple bottle. And life sucked. And I couldn't give up the bottle because I had nothing else. I was unapproachable. I was unavailable. I was absolutely not present. I lived my life from the neck up. I was so disconnected from the heart or from my gut, from any depth of my being, from any ability to be real, to ask for help, to tell the truth. I paid a top therapist in New York City, top dollar that I didn't even have anymore at that point, to lie to him and then drink in his bathroom. That's crazy. That's nuts. To maintain the illusion, life was breaking down my personal will. Step one is a breakdown of personal will. It's life slapping us in the face with the truth. And I just won't accept it. And I don't know that I'm different from others who can manage and control their drinking. I don't know this. I don't understand that I have a physical craving to alcohol that I can't stop once I start. I excuse every time I take it too far, and I take it too far very often. And we read this paragraph over and over. I would say over and over and over. Sick and tired of being sick and tired. We only get sick and tired from doing it over and over. It's like Groundhog Day? Not a greyhound. It's a good thing I'm not speaking in Serbian. That's my fear always. I'm going to get so nervous I'm going to start speaking in Serbian. I speak English better than I speak Serbian. I've been here 30 years. So September 14, 2006, I was on the floor of my apartment. It was just another day of me trying to make it through the day, avoiding the truth of how much trouble I was in. Life was ugly and dirty. I was ugly and dirty. And I experienced a loneliness that I have yet to put into words. And no words really do justice to the loneliness that an alcoholic experiences in the grip of alcoholism. There was clarity that I couldn't live with it, and I couldn't live without it. I was cornered at last. I have met my match. You know, quicksand stretched all around me. I love that in the big book, quicksand. The more you try to get out of it, the more you fall into it. And I contemplated the last thing that I could contemplate. I convinced my neighbor I spotted from the corner of my eye a bottle in his freezer. So I begged him to give me some because I wasn't feeling good. And I didn't have any money. So he gave me some, and then I scrounged up 99 pennies around my house. And I went to the bodega across the street, and I remember the guy looking at me like I was a bum. I've lived in this neighborhood in New York City for like 13 years. You know, I was the hotshot New York girl, you know? And I think I had like mismatched socks, and I smelled, you know, and like, you know, my hair was like this, and like yellow on my teeth, and like, you know, wasn't attractive. And I bought Colt, like I bought a 99-cent thing. And I remember putting the 99 pennies, and I remembered the look he gave me. Like the end was near. Like he transmitted through his eyes something for a second. I didn't know what he transmitted, but something got transmitted. And under the influence of alcohol, I came up with the final solution to my alcoholic problem, which was to end my life. And I've tried everything else up until this point. I went to AA, drunk. They said God, I ran. I went to therapy, but I couldn't really be honest or accept what he was talking about because I was so wrapped up in resentments about my life and my childhood and family dynamics and them and him and what should have happened and shouldn't have happened and all my arguments about reality, right? Because I argue with reality. Like things happen and I don't accept them. And I don't think they should be happening. So I argue and I resist, right? And reality always wins, and reality doesn't care. But, I'll keep fighting. And who gets exhausted is me. And so I was the one spiritually bankrupt. I was the one in my own little kingdom, population 1, righteous, and lonely. Not being able to not drink and not being able to drink. And I decided to end my life. I had bullets, but I didn't have a gun. And, I don't say this lightly. I've been through some stuff in my life, and I'd like to say that I'm a fighter. I can be pretty intense. I can be pretty self-destructive. I've been through, a lot, and I've gotten through it. I've been brought up to, pull yourself up. Come on. Face it. Get through it. Find a way. Stand up, And so when I say that I wanted to end my life, I was going to end my life. And there was a moment of truth that I just remember, this very humble moment that I can't do this anymore. I can't stop drinking. And this time when I said I can't stop drinking, I had a period after that sentence. All the other times, it was more like chatter, like this mind's interpretation of I can't stop drinking, but I'm going to do this, and it's his fault, and it's her fault, and tomorrow I'm going to do this, and, maybe do it this way, and from this angle, and, it's all management, right? All this control. I just want to be in control. I want to have a say. It was like just plain truth, like I can't stop drinking. No, even though I don't want to. I don't want to drink anymore. Guys, I drank when I didn't want to drink. What can be more powerless? You want to do step one? Have you drank when you didn't want to drink? Step one, as far as I'm concerned. And there was a manipulated pause. Time stopped. Sounds crazy. I don't have words for it. There was a sudden and profound moment that happened. I don't know what happened. I have no idea what happened. But under the influence of alcohol, as I contemplated suicide and had an incredibly humble, honest moment, probably the most honest, most humble moment for a very, very, very long time at that point in my life, I was on my knees in my heart. I was cornered at last. I have met my match. I have been defeated. I have accepted complete defeat. Nothing mattered anymore. Game was over. Waved my white flag. I'm done. Call it grace, call it moment of clarity, call it surrender. There was an intuitive thought that came out of nowhere to ask that same neighbor for a quarter and go down to a New York City payphone because all of my bills were shut off at that point and I had no money. And to call my sister until she picked up the phone and to ask for help. And that, so next day is my sober date. This is the craziest thing. The mental obsession's been removed from that moment. It's nuts. Like, I'm the luckiest girl in the world. I have no idea what happened. I'm going to argue that there's no God. I mean, that thing just changed me profoundly, deeply. I didn't even know it did. It was like the red carpet of like recovery and freedom rolled out for me. Dirty, poor, broke, broken, malnourished, you know, with like seizures, in tons of debt, with tons of harms, contemplating suicide. I walked out of my apartment and like recovery just like opened its arms for me and I took it. I was hungry, I was scared. Everything you told me I did as though my life depended on it. The sponsor showed up in front of me that took me through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and explained to me in words that I'd never heard before how sick I was, how bodily and mentally different I was from my fellows. What I suffered from was so radical, a radical, chronic, always present, fatal, I will die, progressive, it always gets worse illness. And a radical illness like that encompasses my all of my being from every angle needs a radical solution. So we like give back money that they don't know we owe them. This is the stuff we do. We take inventory, we sit in silence. We pray to God we don't always understand or feel or hear or believe in. We confess our shortcomings, even though it pains us to be that vulnerable and that real. It's like really like step one is like the death of self. It's a breakdown of personal will. It's a breakdown of that will that has been running my life to the ground up until that point, thinking it knows better. That has been in argument with truth and with reality, that's been resisting the experience that was so blatantly in front of me. I mean, the denial is so thick with us. And you know, it only started with alcohol. The truth is, like, step one says, I'm going to drink no matter what. That's step one to me. I'm going to drink no matter what. I'm doomed to alcoholic death. Regardless of the consequences, regardless of my desire, probation, like, I'm going to drink. My own wishes, I'm going to drink. Losing the children, I'm going to drink. Having $1 million in trust fund on the line, I'm going to drink. Losing my precious job, I'm going to drink. What's your experience? Did you drink when you shouldn't have drank? Didn't want to drink? It was not wise to drink? I mean, my sister doesn't even think about the wine in her glass. She doesn't even think about the wine in her glass. She forgets it's there to have another sip. It makes her a little bit like, sleepy and kind of nauseous and tired. Like I drink, I think I own New York City. I can do anything. I am Superwoman. It's like anything. I mean, like it's crazy the situations I've put myself in. And I've lost, I drank for 10, 11 years. I don't remember much. I can't put the timeline together. The relationships are broken up, the men I've dated, the times I was alone, the job I went to, it's all broken up. Why I went to a 4-year school for 6 years while I only went, because I changed my major like 5 times, but it's all like broken up because my life was so unmanageable. And we see the external unmanageability that the second part of step 1 talks about, right? My life, but it's the internal unmanageability. I don't know how to live life sober. Man, I don't know how to live life. I'm just not comfortable. I need tools. I need direction. I need someone to show me. I need a way of life. I need like a blueprint to build on. I need directions. Left to my own devices, like I'm selfish and I'm self-centered and what's in it for me and what do I want and what I think is best and I don't think about you. And when I do that, I disconnect from my heart. I can't not think about you and not hurt myself. It's like, it is an awakening. It's an awakening to who you really are. That I really actually crave for. Even when I was a kid, I just wanted to be real and I wanted to like connect and I wanted to, just be who I am and stand on my own 2 feet and be authentic. And then I went through years of just pretending and compromising myself. I'm talking depth of me. I'm talking we deny ourselves. This, depth, heart, gut. Like I did things I didn't want to do. I did things I knew were wrong. I avoided feeling the pain of hurting you. And when it hurt me, I drank more to numb myself, to forget it. And I needed the mind to give me an interpretation of reasons and justifications and rationalizations. Whether I kept score, whether I because you did it, So my dad was an alcoholic, so I decided not to talk to him for 10 years. I denied being a daughter because I judged him for not being able to be a dad. I didn't live by my values. I let other things dictate how I'm going to move. And you know what? If it works, fine. It doesn't work. Why do we got to quit playing God? Well, because it doesn't work. I think the book even says it. Does it? Yeah. Quit playing God. Doesn't work. Yeah. If it works, play God. It's kind of comical. We're like tragic and tragedy and comedy all rolled into one. My step 1 experience was when I was drinking. The big book just kind of gives me the words and clarifies it and verbalizes the experience that I've already had. It was important for me and I was very lucky. I met my sponsor. She's still my sponsor to this day. Like I was locked down for 4 months of my recovery. Like I knew not to trust myself. When we have a step 1 experience and its depth fully, we tend to not trust ourselves. We don't know why, but it's very clear that I don't know what's best for me because of what I brought myself to. It's clear that I couldn't rely on my mind because the best my mind could do was tell me to kill myself, try to convince me to kill myself. That's the best I do. It's very limited. And Alcoholics Anonymous is pregnant with possibility. God is unlimited, truth is unlimited, love is unlimited. Under the influence of alcohol, a small moment of truth had incredible power. Me admitting powerlessness and feeling that hopelessness with every fiber of my being connected me to power and hope. It's weird. I don't think like this. I'm not taught like this. It was a strange experience. It's very upside down, kind of. And those of you who have experienced stuff like that will probably understand what I'm talking about. But I knew not to trust myself, and I knew not to trust my mind. And when I walked into a treatment center, they asked me, why are you here? And I said, I don't want to die. And they handed me the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and told me to read the first 164 pages. I heard 64, so in detox I came to page 64, thinking that there's like magical sentence there that she wanted to point out to me, because I'm in the middle of a thing. And now, why did I read Japanese? Because she told me. There was no argument. When we really experience step one, there's no argument. When I really experienced step one, in my experience, I walked out of my New York City apartment with nothing and never looked back. The favorite purse didn't matter. That piece of clothing didn't matter. Nothing mattered. Nothing mattered. I was like brought down as a result of step one experience to like the nitty gritty. Like, you know what I mean? I didn't know what treatment I was going to. It didn't matter. I didn't know how long I was going to stay in that treatment. Didn't matter. How long I wasn't going to have my phone. Didn't matter. I had no money. It didn't matter. Why? My life depended on it, and I was alive. And it's like anything you guys said, like it's my life depended on it. Step one is an understanding that your life depends on it. This is about your life. So early recovery was not necessarily pretty. Like I knew that I could never drink again. I get it one day at a time, but there was a clear understanding immediately that I'm all in. All cards on the table, face up, like all in. No more playing chess with alcoholism in life, trying to control and manage it like I don't have the power, And the wisdom of step one is that I see it first with booze, and it actually introduces me to a much deeper wisdom of step one, which is like, I'm powerless over so much more. You want to know how powerless you are over your mind? Sit in silence without moving for 5 minutes. Just sit for 5 minutes. Sit for 2. I remember when Lena, my sponsor, told me to sit for 2 minutes. I was cheating at 30 seconds. I was so uncomfortable in my own skin. I was like, 30 seconds? It felt like an eternity. I couldn't even sit with myself, like song I don't even like in my head on loop. Like thinking about tomorrow, thinking about yesterday, can't be present, uncomfortable in my own skin. I got to work with this. Like, this is what I work with. I'd like to work with yours. Your stories sound great, and I want to sound like you, and I want to have some of your stories and stuff. But I need to be true to what my story is. This is my story. No matter how simple, boring, uneventful my perception of it is, it's perfectly designed for me and you. Because there's absolutely nothing about this experience that doesn't have a ripple effect on everyone around us. We wake up the heart. It's like a spiritual awakening. Like, I need to be completely changed. And I can't change myself. I don't have the power to change myself. I keep going to the, I don't have the power to change myself. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to live life sober. I don't know how to show up. I don't know. I need to investigate the inner turmoil and my emotional climate. I need to really sit with myself and question things. AA taught me that. I didn't know I could question my mind. Like, nobody's ever told me I could question my mind. Is that really true? Fourth step taught me to question the validity of my resentments. My dad abandoned me. No, they divorced. But abandoned me sounds a lot juicier, right? If I want to drink, if I want to act like a martyr in front of somebody or a victim in front of somebody else, I can get pity from you. I can have an excuse for why I behave the way I behave. I'm going away from step one. Am I going away from step one too much? So going back to step one, I don't even know what time is it. 10 minutes, okay. So that step one experience, I say I'm very lucky because in that step one experience, something magical happened and very profound that not of my own doing. I didn't pick my own sober date. If you picked your own sober date, that's very questionable to me. I mean, you're welcome in open meetings, but you know, like I need help. I need help. I need help. And the great thing about step one is that it took me a long time to realize why it says seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Seemingly. It's a veil, right? There's a veil. It's rich here in AA. It's like unlimited gold mine that if we're curious and if we're willing to look at it, it's going to keep delivering. It keeps delivering, keeps delivering. It keeps meeting me where I'm at. It keeps creating a sense of expansion and a sense of sanity about booze. Like, I get drunk on AA and what it has given me and offered me. Like, I'm high as a kite, man. Everything I do is in honor of that 5 seconds on the floor of my apartment under the influence of alcohol that I still to this day cannot verbalize. And yet Alcoholics Anonymous has verbalized it as some sort of a profound experience of surrender or a moment of grace. And I call it fierce grace, right? And a forced surrender almost, right? Not of my own doing. Why is it fierce? Because it can be very painful. And that kind of pain, that kind of destruction creates the kind of motivation and willingness for us to do radical things, or it has created for me to do radical things, to be willing to sacrifice anything else. Nothing else becomes important. Saving my life becomes important. And it just like then it starts opening my eyes to what's available and what's possible. And the more my heart opens up, my gut opens up, and more gets revealed, and more gets revealed. And I get fed more, and I get inspired more. And each step inspires the next step and creates the courage for it. And the wisdom of step one is I have no power over anything when I'm disconnected from truth. I need to yield to the present moment. I need to be here and now, to tap into the power of reality or truth or love. And I don't need to just know it, right? It's one thing to know it in the mind, right? In terms of knowledge. Right? I need my heart to open up, I need my gut to open up, I need everything to align so that I can just be here now. One thing I don't know how to do is be present, and yet I cannot escape presence. It's like, I'm here. And then I'm here. And then I'm here. And oh, it's here. Oh, and there's another here, you know? And that last moment passed, gone, finished, done. The only interpretation can be in my mind. And when I'm here, embodying this moment, it dictates the next moment. It's crazy what happens when we go from not trusting to trusting. From trying to run my life on my own limited power that I really don't have and I pretend to have, that doesn't really work, and my experience shows it, and alcohol is my spiritual path to that knowledge, to what happens when I let life be life, and what's wanted and needed happen as opposed to what I want and what I think I need. And when I don't come from the interpretation of my mind, but I just kind of show up. My mind, I quit AA every time I'm asked to speak. Every time. Quit AA. Argue with reality, this shouldn't be happening, I'm going to make a fool out of myself, why are they asking me? I can't do that, right? AA, show up, face the fear, regardless. Even if you're coming from your brokenness, be compassionate with it, allow it, have the experience. So I hope I brought you a talk on step one. I don't know. Thanks for having me.